Are ghosts real? It's a question we all ask, but few of us ever get an answer that leaves us shaking. I used to be a skeptic. I dealt in facts, blueprints, and history. But in 2016, in a place where the sun doesn't pierce the mist until noon, I realized that some things don't stay buried in the past. This is my story. I'm an architectural preservationist. My job was to head out to a place called Eldermire, a tiny, isolated settlement deep in the Appalachian backcountry. It was a living museum, one of the few places left where the architecture and the way of life hadn't changed in over a century. I arrived late in the evening and was put up in a heritage house, a massive century-old timber structure built right on the edge of a steep valley. The view was breathtaking, but the air felt heavy. That first night, I stayed up late talking with a local historian, a man named Thomas. We drank coffee and talked about the town's legends until 3 a.m. When I finally hit the hay, I was exhausted. But the moment I closed my eyes, the nightmare began. In the dream, I wasn't in my bed. I was standing in the hallway of that old house. And there she was, a girl. She looked about 17. Her skin was a deathly, translucent white, and her hair was a tangled mess of raven black. But it was her dress that stood out, a deep, blood-red fabric that seemed to glow in the dark. She didn't walk. She glided. She would fly right into my personal space, her face inches from mine, staring at me with completely empty eyes. Then, in a blink, she'd vanish and reappear in the rooms of my colleagues, whispering things, messing with their belongings. In the dream, I found my voice. I shouted at her. "Leave them alone. If you want something, come for me." She didn't say a word. She just flickered back to my face, stared, and vanished again. I woke up at 9 a.m. with a cold sweat. Outside, the valley was swallowed by a thick, gray mountain milk, the fog that doesn't lift until the sun is high. Felt sick. When the sun finally broke through around noon, I told Thomas about the dream. I expected him to laugh. He didn't. He turned pale and said, "I'm calling Silas." Silas was what the locals called a cunning man, a folk healer. He showed up at 5 p.m. He didn't look like a mystic. He looked like a tired farmer in mud-caked boots. He didn't speak much English, only a local mountain dialect that Thomas had to translate. Silas walked into the house, looked me dead in the eye, and asked, "The girl." She was 17. Red dress. Skin like milk. My heart dropped. I hadn't told him a single detail. Silas pointed a calloused finger toward the end of the long, dark hallway, right where the communal bathroom was. "She's standing right there," he whispered. "Waiting." What followed was the strangest thing I've ever seen. Silas pulled out a tattered burlap sack filled with coarse salt and birdseed. He gripped an old, rusted iron cleaver. For 20 minutes, he moved through the house, chanting in that low dialect, throwing salt into the corners and slamming the flat of the iron blade against every doorframe. Crack, crack, crack. When he finished, he turned to us. "She's out. But for the next 15 minutes, do not open a door. Do not let anyone in. Do not let anyone out." He slammed the front door shut and left. That night, every light in the house was on. Nobody slept. I could hear my colleagues snoring in their rooms, but I knew they were just like me, terrified of the silence. I left Eldermire and eventually convinced myself it was just a weird local superstition, a shared delusion. I told the story at parties as a spooky anecdote. A year later, I was at a gallery opening when I ran into a photographer who had also worked in Eldermire. I told her my ghost story. She listened in total silence. Months later, she messaged me. "Are you there? Do you remember the girl in red?" My blood ran cold. "Of course," I replied. She sent back, "I just got back from Eldermire. I stayed in that same house. A few days ago, a visiting professor, a man who doesn't believe in anything he can't see under a microscope, was taking a shower at the end of the hallway. Mid-shower, he came screaming out into the hall, naked, covered in soap suds, shaking with pure terror. He didn't care who saw him. He kept pointing back at the bathroom, shouting that while his eyes were closed to rinse his hair, he felt a presence. When he opened them, a girl in a red dress was standing in the corner of the stall, just watching him. The ritual didn't get rid of her. It just made her wait for the next guest. So, if you ever find yourself in the mountains, staying in an old house where the fog never seems to lift, keep your eyes open, especially in the shower.